feel like I'm sporting my Tom Murphy attire this morning in the Hawaiian shirt. Tom, good to have you as always, man. Got some good stuff from Barry Odom and Kendall Briles last night, and one of the questions I asked to Barry was, Coach, Jamie Newman opting out for the season, how does that impact you guys' game planning? Tom, just your overall thoughts on hearing the Georgia quarterback has opted out in 2020.
Well, you never know what goes on inside a guy's family or anything, but he had to make the decision that was right for him, and he had a good career at Wake Forest, or a good season at Wake Forest as a starter. He was likely going to be Georgia's starter, and like Shamar Nash, sometimes you have situations like Shamar's grandmother passing, and so it's a difficult time for everyone, but for Jamie Newman, he'll now get ready for the NFL draft, and I guess that means J.T. Daniels, who I listened to Kirby Smart's practice scrimmage press conference from, I believe it was Saturday of last weekend, and J.T. Daniels is practicing, but he's not cleared for contact yet. So I assume that he will be. It's been a year for him, basically, or very close to a year. He was hurt in the season opener, so I would think that the Razorbacks are going to see J.T. Daniels at quarterback.
Yeah, he tore it, for those who are just hopping in with us, we've talked about this morning, tore his ACL when he was on USC last year, still recovering, and like you said, Kirby is yet to clear him. So it's also been interesting, Tom. Justin Fields took a visit to Georgia. This was confirmed by Rivals this last week. He was at practice. Now there's these pictures popping around of him in the school system. I don't know if it's new or if it's old. I mean, is there any chance you could see Justin Fields transferring from Ohio State back to Georgia?
Wow. Well, here's the thing. I mean, I believe, if I'm not wrong, it was Justin Fields a Tom Mars guy, who helped him get immediate eligibility. This would be tantamount. I don't know how he could be ruled eligible for this year. Now, although this year's case, a team possibly not playing football in the fall would seem to have been a stronger case, but I don't know. I mean, it could happen, but it seems to me that for him to have eligibility would be a pretty good stretch. So I don't know. We'll see how that thing plays out. But
and the reasoning he left Georgia, or one of the reasons he wanted immediate eligibility, and the hardship case that was presented was he heard racial comments at a baseball game, and he didn't feel comfortable any longer on the Georgia campus. That was part of the reasoning behind his desire to transfer. I could see where that would be a hard case to make, that why do you want to go back to a place that was that uncomfortable for you not that long ago?
Oh, I had forgotten, and that sparked my memory there, Tommy. Yeah, I've forgotten that. So, yeah, it would be seemingly a little – I have no idea if he's trying to gain eligibility right now or what, but that would seem to be kind of a disingenuous case to try to make that again.
For now, I'm just going to say he's a visitor. He was just seeing some old friends. I have a hard time believing he's going to end up playing football at Georgia this year, but who knows in this crazy year. Who knows? So, does this news yesterday change your perception at all? I'm not saying going as far as Arkansas now has a legitimate chance to win their opener against Georgia, but does it change the way you view this game at all, Tom?
Well, I mean, only slightly, in that if something were to happen to J.T. Daniels, then you're looking at, getting deeper into that quarterback deal. Although whoever they feel like is their number two is probably going to start seeing their reps amped up in the next couple of weeks. But to me, this opener is going to be all about, like, execution, stamina. I mean, you saw – and by the way, I enjoyed watching that UCA-Austin Peay game, but there was a lot of weird plays. I mean, because I think it was a COVID situation that kept Austin Peay's deep snappers, first team and second team deep snappers out, and they had two messed up punts that played big roles in the game.
And their star wide receiver, Tom, too, as well, did not make the trip.
Yeah, and there was some weird execution stuff that went on in that game. So there's going to be some weird stuff with depth and all kind of issues that happen this season. So, not that, I mean, I think the Razorbacks are a huge underdog, but I think this just kind of is a factor. Might take that number down a little bit, and would obviously impact Georgia's depth if JT Daniels is struggling or gets dinged up.
Tom, you're hoping nothing happens to Rakeem Boyd, but if something does happen, whether he's injured, decides to opt out or whatever, you have some confidence in his backup and his backups in Traylon Smith. Now, you asked Kendall Briles yesterday, and I thought it was a great question, and he gave you a great answer. It was like he works his tail off, blah, 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 blah. Kind of your thoughts on what Traylon Smith can be to this football team and how much confidence Kendall Briles seems to have in his running back.
Well, just because he's such a hard worker and dedicated, and Jeff Traylor felt the same way. One of the most impactful interviews I remember having with Jeff Traylor last year was when he talked about Traylon Smith. So everybody seems to love him. He actually did a Zoom with us, I think it was last week now, and he's just, engaging, and he's got a great personality. He and Rakeem are really, really tight, the Houston Bros. And multiple times last season, we heard from defensive guys that Traylon Smith was a handful on scout team because he's hard to bring down, he's shifty, and powerful for his size. Now, he's a short guy. I would not want to slam him between the tackles 15 times in a game if Boyd wasn't playing. Mm-hmm. And that's where Armonte Spivey would probably come into play more. But I am really looking forward to seeing if they can get this guy in the open, swing passes, screens, and they're going to stretch people out and try to hit you with some zone blocking and get into open seams. And if they can get him into open territory like Boyd, he's a guy who can take it all the way to the house. I mean, you think back to last season, Boyd broke 4 touchdown runs of 70-plus yards, including 2 in the Western Kentucky game when he had a grand total of 8 snaps, or 8 carries.
Yeah.
So I think they're pretty happy with what they got at running back.
What could you imagine, or what are the possibilities of those two guys at times being on the field together? Talking about Traylon and Rakeem at the same time in the backfield or lined up somewhere. Can you imagine that possibility this year, both being out there for some kind of package together?
Yeah, I just don't know if they've got any, 2-back or split-back stuff. We haven't heard about that. I mean, there's been more, tight end and 3 wides and stuff like that. So you never know. I mean, we're not privy to a lot of the practice, so they could unleash, any number of stuff. I mean, you can't just go out on the field and have every package. You can't have wing sets and I formations and spread, and it's just, you can't rep all that. But it wouldn't shock me if they had a few plays that had the both of them.
Tom Murphy with us on the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Tom, one of the other things that Kendall Briles was asked, this was by me, is like, hey, he told us about a week or so ago, Felipe Franks, it's his job to lose at the starting quarterback position. I asked him that. Tom, I probably listened to the interview or that question 30 times last night, and I watched his video. I can't tell if he says yes, sir, no, sir. What did he actually say? And I should have texted Kyle after the press conference was over, but what did you interpret from what he actually said when I asked him that question? I legitimately watched it probably 30 or 40 times last night, and I'm still undecided on what. And initially, I thought he said yes, sir. Then I second-guessed myself. What did you hear him say last night?
I think you're really, really reading way too much into this because he had just previously said that that Felipe would be working with the ones.
That's what
so I took it to mean a hard yes, sir. I can't remember the posing of your question, but it was basically nothing has changed his opinion. Yes, sir.
That's how I took it too, and then I re-listened to it, and I guess I just psyched myself out when it came to that question.
You're trying to talk yourself into something.
But Ty, I don't get it, man.
I don't. It's weird though, because here's why I'm almost psyching myself out. Pittman on Tuesday, and then on Friday's like they're not going to name a starting quarterback, and then Briles is basically telling you Felipe Franks is starting quarterback. So that doesn't make that doesn't make any sense to me. Does that make sense to you that the head coach is like keeping it in house and the OC is basically saying this is going to be our starting quarterback? It doesn't make sense.
I think Sam Pittman's having a little fun with it, man. I'm just rolling with it. Everything we see, everything we hear, Felipe's working with the ones, and I'm not gonna get caught up in any kind of conspiracy.
Yeah, I think Sam's just having fun with Kirby a little bit because he can. Not that Kirby's probably paying a heck of a lot of attention to it, but it's just Sam having some fun with his new role.
Yes, that's what I think too.
Tom, let me top off the interview with this, man. We were discussing Jamie Newman, obviously opting out this season. He's not going to be the last high-profile college football player that decides to do that because of getting ready for the NFL draft, personal reasons, family reasons, or whatever. Could you make the case, Tom, that it might actually be good just for the 2020 standalone season that Arkansas doesn't have a lot of NFL caliber prospects that might not play just because they want to get ready for next season in the NFL?
I suppose you could, but I mean, Rakeem Boyd wanted to play. I mean, we haven't heard anything different from him. He's obviously the, highest level. A guy like Xavier Kelly could play his way into the draft, and there's others, but Boyd wanted to play. He wanted to show that he's a better pass pro guy, that he can catch passes, and I thought he did that well last year. But it means something to him. I mean, I had a conversation with him during the spring about, it was like, I was asking him, hey, this is the first time I really got to talk to you since you made the decision. What compelled you to come back? And his take was as much helping Arkansas football get back on the right track and being pointed towards something, pointing toward moving up, being better thought of around college football. That was as important to him as improving his own stock for the draft. So you get the feeling of what kind of kid he is, and boy, when he's on, he is a tremendous. Since Darren McFadden was here, he might be the best back they've had, and there's been a series of good backs come through here. But his combination, he's got power, he's got great vision, and breakaway speed. I mean, a couple of those, he broke in the open, and the safeties were chasing him, and it tells you all you need to know.
So you think he's better than Alex Collins?
I think they're pretty comparable. I loved Alex Collins. His jump cut, his vision. I think Boyd's got better speed. Okay. And so I think they're very, very comparable. Yeah. But, I don't know what the ultimate comparison is. Maybe what they do in the NFL. Collins certainly got a cup of tea, mainly one season as a starter. But we'll see what Boyd does with it. Boyd's story here isn't written completely yet either. So, no, it's not. He could have back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. If he had a 1,000-yard season this year, it would mean he averaged 100 a game, and it would be a heck of a season against this schedule. Yeah, it would. Tom, we'll leave it there, man. As always, we appreciate it, and we will talk to you next Tuesday. Have a great weekend, and have a good Labor Day weekend. Sounds good. Everybody have a great weekend, too.